Hi everybody, it's Danuta. I'm here to speak to you about living creatively with Druidry. Look, I've come up. That's amazing. I now need to make it work. I wonder if I can make this work cleverly. It's clever. I can see comments. Okay, cool. So I'm kind of set up a bit differently to people because my phone is doing the filming and I have a bit of a lag between what I can see on the screen and what's going on up there. I'm flying blind, people. All right. I want to thank Julie Brett for inviting me to speak on Druids Down Under, discuss everything, and I'm going to speak today about living creatively with Druidry. Now, if you don't know very much about me, my background is in research and development, believe it or not, and creative writing. The first half of my life was basically as a sidekick to researchers and scientists and very, very clever people, much cleverer than I am, and helping be part of a team that brings to fruition new inventions almost, yeah? So I've been around creative people for a very, very long time, and I've been working with creative people for a very, very long time, and it ended up with me getting a PhD in creative writing. So my background is kind of all creative stuff. And along that trip, you know, I stumbled into Druidry about, not very many years ago. I knew about it for a long time before I actually became involved in it. But actually stumbling into Druidry was a bit of that living creatively thing for me. It was one of those times when I got the feeling that I should just say yes. Sometimes you feel like you're stagnant, you know, like, you know, in a bit of a mire, and you reach out into the world from your internal place, and then you basically call. I think we all have that capacity to call for who we are, call to enter into a place that is greater than what we are, and to have a solution come. So I was in a position where I needed a solution to my life, and I sent out the call, and very, very promptly an opportunity to become a part of OBOD showed up, and get involved in some exciting sort of projects there. And the morning that this opportunity came up, I went, okay, well then I'm just going to say yes to the opportunities that come that look like I can be involved in them. And I did. I had 2 opportunities and I said yes to both of them. Druidry has really, really stuck. The other thing is also become something that I have in my life sporadically. But, you know, Druidry kind of nurtures me. You know, it's become a thing that engages me, and the people have engaged me. They align very much with my son saying, go forth and find your tribe. So, hello tribe, you have found me, I have found you, and I feel like I belong. So, what is creative living? It's interesting, you know, creative living is interesting because it's more than art and music and dancing and painting. It's more than those things that we call creative things. It's about being alive and being creative, being able to reach into those places when we feel stagnant and pull out or be drawn in to something that actually creates us anew, and also creates our world anew, creates our environment anew. And there's a peacefulness to that. There's a embracing quality to being involved in a creative life. it's a life of synchronicities, because the awareness is kind of prone. It's kind of acutely charged to see the wonder and the opportunities that surround us. Anyway, so when I have a creative day, a very creative living day, it can look very different from one thing to another. It depends greatly on what it is I need in my life. So I'm a mum. I've got 4 children, and my children are interesting people and have had interesting challenges. And for a large part of my life, a lot of my creative energy has been in helping my children nurture themselves and find a way to harness their own creativity and their own way of being in the world, to understand their own unique ways of understanding and embracing what life is about. Now, that is a really interesting way of being creative, having a creative life, because a lot of people don't think of motherhood as necessarily a creative practice, but it is, because every day you've got a million different things you've got to solve, and sometimes those things are absolutely insoluble. They've never been solved before, and you have to solve them, because it's not just you, it's you and this other person. And so you have to, between you and this other person, create a solution that shares their world. Anyway, so the next thing that you can have is you can have the experience of having the perfect creation. Some creative days are when you step into that day and have a perfect creation, where you go and do some creative work. You, like Julie, might make the most beautiful piece of jewelry, or like Lisa, make the most amazing piece of soap. Or you might have a day where you know, like Tina, you have a song, or you have a story, or or Trudy Richards, beautiful songs and beautiful insights, and they all come together, and you just have that sense of this is really, really working. That too is an experience of creative living creatively. And then the last thing is the perfect solution. The other day I went and visited my son, and he came out and said to me, "Mum, I think I found it. I think we've got the breakthrough that's going to enable us to do this science." And it's not about you being the solution. It's about being able to tap into that opportunity, that awareness and river, that flow that is that opportunity. So in Druidry, we get some really beautiful metaphors for how this works in a person's life. And in OBOD, we start the Bardic grade listening to the tale of Cerridwen and Taliesin. How Cerridwen goes and has to create a brew, the brew of Arwen, to save her son. A creative practice. As I said, the things you do for your children are intensely creative. So she goes forth, she goes into the world, and she has a cauldron made, okay? This amazing cauldron in which she is going to brew this perfect brew, out of which there will be 3 drops that will give the perfect, ultimate solution to all her problems. So you have a cauldron. Into the cauldron she puts the liquid, and to that liquid she adds all the plants and the herbs and the ingredients, picked at the time when they need to be picked and added at the time when they needed to be added. They move from there, from that beautiful cauldron moment, to the process of stirring it, the process of going through a year and a day of brewing this elixir, that you have the right people there to do this brew. Now, it doesn't seemingly turn out wonderfully for Cerridwen, but Taliesin is sort of like, no booby prize. And he too becomes a son of Cerridwen, so she does kind of do this thing. But what I want you to do with this, I'd like you to think about creative living as that cauldron, as crafting that cauldron around you, around your life, as crafting your life into that cauldron, into which you put the perfect ingredients that you've picked at the right time, that you blend over the right amount of time to finally draw out this elixir that is you, the creative person. So when we do that, we have a set of understandings, that we have practices that we do that create this cauldron. Now, Keratin didn't make the cauldron, a druid made the cauldron. And in a sense, we don't make our own cauldrons. We get associated with other people, with other beings that come around us and form a cauldron around us, or actually form us into that cauldron. And when they form us into that cauldron, we kind of submit ourselves to the process and the journey that we're taken on. Now, in Druidry, in contemporary Druidry, a number of orders that I know of, they encourage you to go on a path, to go on a journey of discovery. And in doing that journey of discovery, that is the creation of that cauldron. The natural byproduct of creating that cauldron are all the creative things that people do, like in the Bardic grade, or in all grades. It's what people do in those groves. The creative output of having a cauldron in that space is that these things happen to it. So to become the cauldron is to become the vessel that naturally releases these capacities and these attributes. The thing is, not all capacities come from every cauldron. So one of the really important things about living creatively is actually being able to be yourself in that, to be able to breathe and know the rhythms of your own breath, to know the way you inhale the air, the way you intone Awen, the way that you absorb Nuefre, and the way that you stand in a sacred place or an ematon. These things are really, really important because you are a distinct cauldron and you're specifically shaped to create the elixir that only you can create, in a sense. And I know that can sound twee, but it's actually quite true, because we have a sense of comparing ourselves against others, and that can be quite limiting. And particularly when you are on a unique part, or you're quite unique as a person, to use other people as a primary model is very difficult. So the things that are really important to me in creating that cauldron for me are a set of repetitive practices. Because when we create the cauldron, we want to create it from our body, our mind, and our spirit. We want to create it from the essential layers of our being. The body, in order to do this, requires regularity. We need to create structures around ourselves that are regular so that the body doesn't become traumatized in its action. The way that we process our thoughts, feelings, and desires changes drastically depending on whether or not we're using our sympathetic or parasympathetic nervous system to do that. The mind requires guidance. Without guidance and training, the mind tends to flit around a bit like a butterfly. Yes, very much so, and that's very much me at times. So what we offer the mind in this process is a way to be guided through the process. So in the regularity of our bodily practices, we allow our mind to rest and be safe and guided, so that the spirit or the Awen can infuse us, can be breathed into us, so that we are illuminated on our path. So the process of making the cauldron, process of making this cauldron requires us to work simultaneously on our body, our mind, and our spirit in different measures at different times. So as we craft the cauldron, we go out and we pick the flowers and the herbs that make ourselves, and we use them at particular times. So for me, like in a basic situation, is our routines. The way we structure our day becomes a part of that cauldron. What do we do in the morning when we get up? What do we do in the evening before we go to bed? What do we do in the middle bit becomes really important. And the ability to have regularity and surprise balanced throughout our life is really, really important to maintain this flow of inspiration and Awen as we go along. For me, a lot of that has surrounded doing very functional things at my home, such as I've built a garden with friends in my yard with a circle and a rock in it and lots of flowers, and I've spent a year and a half watching the flowers grow in an odd way around that circle, sort of like at the time of the year, that's the time of the year for that sort of celebration, the flowers grow in that area, or the plants are most flourishing in that area, which I really didn't think would be the case, since my yard is kind of flat and kind of got the same sun everywhere. So that was a really interesting thing for me. But I suppose that's the way that I've worked with it. It's a way of building my own nematon in my own space, so that I can connect with that place all the time. And that's become like a vessel for me. It's like an externalization of my own internal vessel. But I think that the most important thing that we do, whatever we do, is it's something that's in line with our own selves. And so part of it is bringing yourself to a point of quiet where you can easily be who you are and what you need to be. I know a number of people on this, on DDUDE have done meditations at the end of their presentation, and I'm not feeling so inclined toward doing that at the moment. What I'd like to do is just ask you to just think about, what is it you do with your day? How do you wake up in the morning? How do you move through the day? And what do you do at night? Don't change it. Don't force it. Don't make yourself be something that you're not at the moment. But just observe who you are and the practices that you use right now. You're alive. You're functioning. You're obviously capable enough to have a computer and be listening to this. So you're successful in some way to be here. So just think about the things that you do that are your things. And once you have a good understanding of that, maybe start examining how those things might be changed to create the cauldron that you can make, to refine the cauldron of your life. Anyway, I'd like to really thank you very, very much for having me here. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Lisa and Rebecca and Tina and all the team. And I really hope they ask me again, because maybe next time we'll do a meditation. Anyway, thank you so much. I'm Danuta Rain. I'm involved with Druid Pilgrim, and if you'd like to join the Druid Pilgrim group, please do. And I also have a business called My Creative Life, and I'll be offering stuff about living a creative life in the future. So I look forward to speaking to you all again. Love you. Bye.